Hello and welcome back to live coverage of the Apex Gaming $5,000 Modern Open here in Caldwell, Ohio. I'm Tandy, joined by Ross Merriam. Say hi, Ross.
Hi, Ross.
And we have our top 8 competitors. We're going to go over the competitors as well as their archetypes and who's playing who. We'll start off with the 2 versus 7 seed. That's Treadway on Teamer Rhinos versus Young Dingo on Rakdos Evoke.
Yeah, I gotta say the Rhino stack can be really scary, but Dingo has torn through this tournament. He's one of the best players in the field. I'm not gonna bet against him even on the draw.
Yep. Our 3-6 matchup's going to be Grey Tongue on Beans versus May on Teamer Rhinos. Who do you got in Rhinos versus Beans?
Well, we saw May earlier, and she was very good at having her 1 gemstone caverns on the draw.
Mm.
She's probably gonna need it here because I think you got to be aggressive in that matchup. So
Yeah.
close, but I lean towards Grey Tongue. I think the Omnath deck has enough tools to stop the early aggression. But if the match is over quickly, I'll give May a fighting chance there. That's close, slight edge to Gray.
Our 4-5 matchup's going to be Blythe on Blue Black Mill versus Pecoraro on Golgari Yawgmoth. That one, I think, can go either way. The Mill deck is very explosive at times and could just mill over a lot of your combo pieces and have you in a weird spot.
Yeah, but then Soul Cauldron can do some stuff.
Yeah.
It's going to be on Pecoraro to be fast in that matchup.
Right.
You know, the mill deck is kind of like a sort of a burn deck of sorts. I do also like the Drown in the Locks and Surgical Extractions. You know, if you just Surgical Extract the Yawgmoths, you Surgical Extract some of the aggressive cards.
Yeah.
I lean towards Mill. I think Mill was a sneaky good call. We haven't seen Michael Blythe. Hopefully, we get to see him later in the tournament. But I like him in that matchup. I'll go Blythe.
All right, in the match we are going to be watching first in the top 8 is Mangus on Beans. We just watched him play to make top 8. He is our first seed, and he's going to be battling it out against Travis Brown. Notable here at the Apex Gaming home store, playing Mono White Hammer, deck that he plays in essentially every modern event, and I have never seen him play anything else.
Yeah, and he's very, very proficient with the deck. This is typically a matchup that Hammer doesn't like. You know,
Right.
back in the day when it was 4-color Yorion, that was the matchup that Hammer didn't like playing against. Just the combination of Solitude and Fury is a lot. And now when they have the Beans to back it up, it can be problematic. They've got a bunch of Force Vigors in their sideboard just to combat Hardened Scales now, but they're very good against Hammer. So I don't want to count Travis Brown out because he's so good with this deck. But on the draw, tough matchup, I got to give the edge to Mangus.
All right, well, let's head on down to the feature match area and watch and see who takes it down between Mangus and Brown. We got Beans. We got Hammer. Beans is going to be on your right as Mangus, and Brown's going to be on your left with Hammer. And Beans is going to be on the play throughout the whole top 8. Went 5-1 in matches played and ended up first seed.
Yeah. Travis Brown actually lost to 2 other players in this top 8.
All right, we have turn 1 Ornithopter from Travis Brown. No play from Mangus. We're going to start off with Cycled Eagles of the North. You know,
There you go.
are you a Lord of the Rings fan? Like, are you did you watch
Casual.
those movies when you were
I've
younger?
seen all the movies. Actually,
Sure.
I think I own them on DVD.
Cool, cool. I owned Fellowship on VHS when I was in high school.
So for the kids at home, DVDs and VHSs
Ah,
were
yeah.
how we watched
Archa-
movies
Archaic media.
before streaming.
Have you ever heard of a library?
Hey, libraries are still great.
Yeah.
They do have a lot of streaming services now.
Yeah, that's true. All right, but we do cycle the Eagles of the North. I don't know why they didn't just carry Frodo to Mordor. I guess they were busy.
Because then Sauron would have seen them.
Oh, yeah, and shot him down with his ballista. Here is Esper Sentinel and a Colossus Hammer. This is going to set up a potential kill next turn if Travis has a couple of cards, but mostly just deploying things to the battlefield. And Esper Sentinel draws a card off the Beanstalk.
Yeah. When the Colossus Hammer gets played aggressively like that, it's usually a sign that Pierstow Paladin is coming. But Brown is going to need another white source for that.
Well, how about this? Here comes Fury. That's going to kill off the Esper Sentinel and the Ornithopter, leaving Brown with no threats on the table. We're going to go back his way and see if he can cobble something together here.
Interesting. It looks like Mangus had the 3rd land, but didn't pay for the Esper Sentinel when he played the Bean.
Might have drawn the untapped lands. Nope, has another one in hand. Maybe just didn't care. Maybe said,
Yeah.
I got really ahead of myself. Maybe didn't want to shock. Maybe wanted to fetch a tapped land.
Has a Leyline Binding in hand, but isn't going to be able to play it for white because there's no Godless Shrine to fetch. You would need a swamp to get the cost reduction down.
Well,
Maybe he
can't
just didn't
hit
want to
lands
take that
anyway.
damage. But now Brown is going to shift modes instead of going for the quick hammer. Now I've got Urza Saga and can start grinding value with that. So an easy pivot for Brown to make here.
Yeah, also easy because you have no creatures to attack with.
Well, it looks like a pretty solid hand for Mangus. I see an Omnath. Do we see any more pitch elementals?
I see a white card, but I think that is the binding you alluded to. But I do see
Yeah.
a fire ice as well, so a lot of potential interaction. I do see a solitude too. So Mangus seems like he has it rolled up here. Travis Brown going to go ahead and make an Urza's Saga token. We'll see. Maybe Fire Ice wants to just deal 2 and kill it while things are down.
Yeah,
Shields are down.
down, only 2 artifacts. Might as well make that trade while you can. Still has Leyline Binding up in case something, crazy happens. The Leyline Binding will cantrip off the Bean. Next turn, we can go Omnath, fetch land, make 5 mana Solitude, draw a card off the Bean, have both creatures in play.
All right, looks like we're going to make a construct with the Saga before resolving Chapter 3. We're going to go digging for an artifact to put on the table. Normally getting Hammer, but here could get Springleaf Drum for more mana. That is what we're going to do.
Yeah, this is an ideal start, I think, for Mangus. Just has the early Bean, has the pitch elementals, has the Omnath, and exactly enough lands to make it all work.
All right, Brown here, though, does have some options. Can go Springleaf Drum for mana, use Saga from hand to play Stoneforge Mystic, and that starts setting up for later turns. We're going to shock for 3 with Miria, the backside of that, able to enter untapped if you are willing to pay a hefty fine.
And Travis Brown's life total isn't super relevant in this matchup.
Right.
Once Mangus takes over the game, you're not getting back into it.
All right, in step, we're going to go for Leyline Binding. Travis Brown does have an answer here with Surge. Is it Surge of Righteousness? No, that's not it. Surge of Salvation. That's it.
Yeah. Now, that does leave the Leyline naked on the battlefield for a later Teferi to potentially rebuy.
Right. A little bit scary, but if you're Travis, you're just trying to find a way to punch through here, and it's very difficult, and that Surge protecting one of your creatures could easily be the way to start doing it.
And there's another Fury, so now little awkward because the construct's a 3/3. So playing that early hammer paying off for Travis Brown here, we can't Fury down both creatures. So we'll see if Mangus wants to go for just a Fury, maybe potentially hold Solitude back because you can pitch cast that on Travis Brown's turn, or wants to save the Fury to get more than one creature from it.
I mean, I think just hard casting the Fury off the Omnath mana seems more than fine. Like, you get to draw a card, kill the Giver of Runes, and then it's just a construct. The construct itself has trouble getting through your creatures without something like the Giver of Runes on the other side.
Yeah, you definitely want to deal with the Giver. It looks like Mangus is going to go for the Fury, fetching out a Steam Vents, no untapped white source to go with his Omnath mana.
Has a Leyline Binding as well, so could have opted for that, but we're just going to kill the construct and leave him with the Giver of Runes. And I believe we forgot to draw a card.
Oh.
Windswept Heath can't get Steam Vents. Good catch by our director there. Went ahead and stopped him on that. So
yeah, there'll be another red source we can find. Stomping Ground, Sacred Foundry.
Yep, Stomping Ground is the pick. Good catch, Mr. Director.
We'll just add the warning to the pile.
These players here in the top 8, these are untimed matches. But, both players are playing at a reasonable pace, but that's why you don't see the clock at the top as normal. Travis Brown here looking for something, but after Solitude pitching and removing his last creature, he's basically on reserves. And I was going to need some help. Find Stoneforge Mystic. We're going to go get Cauldron Complete. And that is a Hail Mary if I've ever seen one.
And a Hail Mary that will not be completed for a variety of reasons. Leyline Binding answers it. Solitude answers it.
Okay, well, Mangus.
Probably just race it with Omnath gaining life every turn.
Yeah. A hard cast Solitude, draw a card. This is where you really see Up the Beanstalk going bananas. It's giving you a card every time you play any of your big interactive spells, either by pitching them for free or paying full retail. Travis on the ropes.
Yeah. We saw Mangus, stumble a little in the early games in the last round of the Swiss against, Jund Saga. did not stumble at all in this game. Had a wonderful draw and has navigated this game beautifully. Very far ahead at this point.
I think this is the type of deck you really want to play against if you play a 4-color bean deck. You like playing against creature-heavy decks, so Fury and Solitude are great, and also decks that aren't disrupting you like crazy. And if that's the case, you just get free reign on your beans plus pitch spells, and it's very difficult for your like fair creature decks to keep up. And it's one of the reasons why I think Beanstalk might actually end up getting the Banhammer at some point, because it's just another thing on the long list of reasons why aggressive creature decks are just not very playable.
Yeah, there's a second bean for Mangus. Now the engine is really fully online. There's a Shard saying we get a third bean.
Yeah, going to Boston, Beantown. You can go meet my friend Amy Zonian.
There's a bean. That's a bean.
Yep.
We're all beans.
Yep. Travis going to take a look. These are still technically closed deck lists, so he's going to take a look at the cards on the shuffle and then put them on the bottom. Just getting a little more information about what to look for next game, because this game's about wrapped. We're going to smash here. Bunch of damage coming in. Ginger Brute. Probably got a chump block in the Construct from the Urza Saga. Likely going to get eaten by Leyline Binding.
Which will also draw James Mangus 3 cards.
Is that all?
Only 3.
Only 3.
If you're into that sort of thing.
That's right up my wheelhouse, Ross. You're like, I'd probably pay you $1 a minute to talk to me like that. That's all I'm saying.
That's $1 a minute for the first minute, $4.99 a minute for every minute after that.
Here it is, Leyline Binding. That's going to take care of the Construct. We're going to draw 3 cards. Travis Brown, floating some mana in response off of Springleaf. We're going to block with the Ginger Brute, and then we can pop it to gain 3. Although our floating mana does disappear, and I don't think that we have... I think it costs 2 to sack. I don't think that's how that works, unless there's a land floating around somewhere that I didn't see. Well, let's see what happens. Travis Brown here, likely going to draw and concede. We have Inkmoth Nexus is the pickup.
That is, it's not going to be good enough against Fury, Omnath, Solitude, Shardless Agent, Triple Bean.
Yeah, the trigger 3 of Saga is occasionally very scary because it can go get a hammer. And if you already have something in play that equips the hammer, it's potentially good. But here, looks like we're going to make a construct. Chapter 3 going to go off. What are we going to go get?
Is the 4th bean in Mangus's hand?
It is. He drew it off the draw 3, as one does.
You know what we call that?
Bean. Let's see, quad beans.
Oh, we call it Holy for Holis.
Holy for holies. I like that.
That's what you call the quad bean.
Okay, well,
Somebody
we got
clip that.
2 blockers. We got 4 attackers. 5 damage guaranteed to come through.
That's
okay.
3 chuckles from our director.
Yeah, you can't count every smirk, as a.
I heard it. There was a vocalization. You're just mad because you're losing the game.
Oh yeah, the make turn laugh game.
Yep.
All right, well we got Shadow Sphere equipped. What do we have it for Mangus? Desperation mode here for Travis Brown. A couple of Bloodbraid Elves. Those can cascade into Teferi and Bounce. Those are guaranteed Teferi hits at this point with 4 beans on the table.
Yeah, but we can bounce that Leyline Binding that has nothing under it and cast it with 4 beans.
Yeah.
Holy for Holis.
All right. Here's another creature. Travis, my man, stalling for camera time. You know what? He deserves it. He's been off camera all day because he lost round 1. Shardless.
Oh, no.
It's not a force hit because Shardless is the bad hits. Okay, cool. So no Teferi. I still think this is enough to just attack for lethal, though.
Then we get a 2/2. This does let Travis look at the entire deck.
Oh, man. Oh, actually, maybe we're not doing so great. Maybe Shadow Sphere on this construct is too large. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So I guess maybe we can't even really attack. That's disappointing.
Yeah. We'll deal with it eventually.
Well,
so
if Pure Steel Paladin off the top equals Hammer Equip equals attack for like 13, gain 13.
What we can attack with everything but one of the Shardless agents, right?
Well, one of
Then
the
you,
Shardless
you
agents.
block the Fury. You're still taking 12. It's not a 7/7 or an 8. It had to be an 8/8 to survive.
Okay. Well, one of those Shardlesses can attack somewhere. I don't know
So
where
I
it's
think this is still just a lethal attack because you don't have the mana to activate the Ink Moth and block with it.
Checks out. All right, Mangus. What can you do?
Yeah, just counting up the numbers. There we go.
Bang.
Send in the clowns.
Yes. Please give me the game one handshake, Travis. Please give it to me. Give it to me. I love it. I love seeing the turn one handshake. Okay. GG. Travis Brown down a game. James Mangus with the beans. Cascading all over the place.
Okay. Now we look at the sideboards. Travis Brown, we got 4 Solitude, 2 Sanctifier Invec, 4 Strict Proctor, 1 Blacksmith Skill, 3 Cursed Totem, and 1 Pithing Needle.
I gotta say that Strict Proctor gave me a eyebrow moment. You know, where you hear it and you think, oh,
Somebody came prepared.
Oh. All right, so
That's
let's get
any
Strict Proctor on
permanent.
screen, please. Okay.
Any permanent entering the battlefield, causing an ability to trigger.
All right. Yeah, Strict
Counter
Proctor,
unless it pay
2
2.
cost, 1/3 flyer. Any permanent entering the battlefield causes a trigger. It don't unless they pay 2, but 2 is a lot.
So that's Fury, Solitude, and Leyline Binding. It's also the cantrip off of Bean.
No, Bean's a cast trigger.
No, the initial cantrip.
Oh yes, the enters play trigger.
Yeah.
Good call on that. Okay. Cool. So Proctor here likely a nod to the Bean and Elemental strategy in general.
Yeah.
And I feel like Travis is always ahead of the curve when it comes to like cool sideboard cards like that for sure.
I imagine we will also see the Blacksmith skill. I think 4 Proctor, 1 skill, all coming in makes a lot of sense. Just make sure we can protect from that early interaction as well as possible.
I just saw a bunch of Curse Totems in a sideboard too.
Yeah.
He's on that Curse Totem train.
So the one we saw earlier was not the only one registered in the tournament.
Yeah, or in the United States in the last 2 years.
So a very solid sideboard there for Travis Brown. He has come with some heavy hitters.
Okay, cool.
And the Solitudes, those are there for the Rakdos matchup. So
All right.
he's got all the top matchups covered.
And on the other side of things, we have James Mangus's 4-color bean deck. We talked a little bit about that last match, but what's standing out on your screen
So,
there?
not much. There's 3 Obsidian Charmaw, 1 Lavinia Azorius Renegade, 2 Inevitable Betrayal, 2 Commandeer, 1 Magmatic Sinkhole, 3 Force of Vigor, 1 Chalice of the Void, and 2 Leyline of Sanctity. Definitely like the Force of Vigors. I think I'd bring in the Chalice. Chalice on 1 seems quite good. And maybe later in the game you Chalice on 2 if you really want to. But Chalice on 1 seems good enough that I'm willing to bring in a single copy.
Yeah.
The Sinkhole is possible, but doesn't seem great. Like, I could take or leave it.
Any interaction is
Yeah.
good interaction. You just have to kill all their
Yeah.
creatures.
Depends what else you want to bring out. Oh, you don't want the Chalice because you don't want to cascade into it.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to cascade into it. So definitely just the Force of Vigors and maybe the Sinkhole. But the Force of Vigors are obviously very strong in this matchup. Though they don't kill Stern Proctor.
All right, these
And
players.
neither does Fire Ice. Actually, like,
Okay.
what? If you don't have the 2 mana to pay, what does kill Stern Proctor? I mean,
Strict Proctor.
Strict Proctor, yeah.
Stern Proctor is, I believe, a blue and 2 for a 1/2.
I think it's
I think
blue.
I think it bounces a creature you control back to hand, and I think it cycles for 2.
It bounces an enchantment, doesn't it? Yeah. Artifact or enchantment to its owner's hand.
Ah,
Cost
dang.
blue. It's what they used to play in Alurin. To bounce
Oh,
problematic
sure.
permanents.
Sure. All right, players are shuffled up here and ready for game number 2. We're underway. Travis Brown leads with Emiria Sky Ruin into Esper Sentinel. That likely going to draw a card here before Mangus is able to deal with it. We're going to shock with Temple Garden. What does that mean?
I mean, you don't.
Cycle Eagles of the North.
Yeah, the one
Figured it
Eagles.
out. All right, figured it out. Here it goes. Attack with Esper Sentinel. Down 17. Mangus. Gonna likely cycle that big bird. Looking for another land to play. Oh, there's Strict Proctor. How do you beat this one, James? Cyborg cards these
Oh.
days. Whew.
We can evoke Fury here, deal with both creatures, pay the 2.
Mm.
But it really limits what Mangus is able to do early. It makes him trade on a normal basis instead of waiting to set up his own powerful synergies with up the Beanstalk. Because normally you're trying to play up the Beanstalk, then evoke your elementals, draw your cards. Strict Proctor at least stops that powerful sequence. it's not going to stop the pitch elementals from doing their thing.
All right, gonna go back James's way. Has the answer with the Fury. Can pitch Fire Ice and pay for the Proctor. We got that side shot of Anonymous Spike. He's here incognito. I know you see him on stream playing Modern every day. This is his twin brother. Sorry, I'm just playing. All right, Mangus does play the Fury. Kills both creatures from Travis Brown's side, and we're going to go back his way and play Stoneforge Mystic, but doesn't look like he has a land to play, or else maybe he would have leaned into the Urza Saga to play that longer game plan. And now we're going to go get an equipment. What you going to go get,
Now,
Travis?
if Brown does have a protection spell, could go get Calder Complete, play a white source, have protection up. But I think you're right. I don't think there's no third land here for Travis Brown.
Okay, going to go back James's way. Fetch. Land 3. Here's Fire Ice.
Get that out of here.
Bruh.
Don't
Now
want
we
to
just have to float mana because we don't have enough to pay, but we drew a land for turn, so we got a bunch of combinations of things we can do now.
Land is a very good draw. Looks like there's a Forge Anew in Travis Brown's hand.
Yep.
The recent addition to this deck. And it is a 2 of in Travis's list.
All right, Mangus here waiting for Travis to announce floating mana. This is something people often just let happen, but Mangus has been playing around Pithy Needle all day. Doesn't want his fetch land to get caught.
And there is a Pithing Needle. There's actually 2 needles in Travis's list. He has 1 in the main deck, 1 in the sideboard.
While it's unlikely to be grabbed or to matter, it might not even be in the deck. Mangus here doesn't have much to do with the land, right? So it's just better to go ahead and fetch. Guarantee you don't get hosed by the needle. Doesn't cost you much. We're going to go get Hammer off of the Stoneforge Mystic, and now with our land, we can play Esper Sentinel, and then we can also hold up protection with Springleaf Drum. Looks like we're going to go for that, and Travis Brown's going to pass it back. Mangus draws. Got a Beanstalk. We got Teferi. We don't have pitch elementals, it doesn't seem like.
Yeah, I had to use them early. And that's the point of the Proctor. Now the Bean, not nearly as threatening.
Well, we can start off with like Leyline Binding, pay 1. Brown probably going to stop it with Surge. Could also play Teferi and not pay the 1. That allows us to lock the Surge in hand or force it to be cast prematurely.
Yeah. Kind of crack the fetch. Could go Bean, pay 1, Leyline Binding, draw off the Bean. But you got to Leyline Binding the Stoneforge Mystic, right? Because you know there is Calder Complete in hand.
Yep.
And Travis has a protection.
Has protection and could just untap and kill you with Esper Sentinel if he's able to have Sigarda's Aid plus a couple of hammers.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to fetch up a basic force off the Misty, and now looks like we're going to go Beans, and then we're going to pay the 1.
Yep, Bean, pay 1. Draw off Bean.
Oh, no, it's not. That is not a Bean. I don't think... Oh, and we have Shardless Agent, too.
Yeah,
Wow.
draws the Force of Vigor and has the green card. Not a ton of green cards in this deck. The Cascaders are the main ones that help you out. Force of Vigor is a huge draw. Now we get to... Though we can't... Now with the Surge protecting the Stoneforge Mystic, the Force doesn't deal with Calder Complete.
No, it doesn't. But Calder Complete doesn't beat you on its own necessarily.
Yeah, you got a bunch more Leyline Bindings for it. To actually Teferi on the Germ.
Yep.
So you have the Calder Complete beat if you can just take a hit.
Now, James, pausing on the upkeep for Travis. This has to be a big red flag for Travis that perhaps Force is coming and he needs to play around it.
As good as the Force is, because of the Esper Sentinel, if you cast it here, Travis is going to get a card. So it's going to be still card advantage for Travis Brown. 2 for 2 where Travis gets the cantrip.
All right, we're going to play a Giver of Runes, and now we're going to attack for 5. Mangus down to 8. We'll see what he can cobble together next turn. Okay.
Yeah, trying to not give up all that card advantage because he hasn't generated a ton of card advantage himself, and he's sort of losing the tempo war as a result.
Mangus here going to bounce, draw a card, does pay the 1, and now we're going to go back Travis Brown's way. We are very close to victory here. We have enough mana to play Hammer and then equip it with Forge Anew. And without any creatures on Mangus' side, it's threatening lethal, but we know a Force of Vigor is coming, and those will be some real juicy targets for Mangus.
Yeah, I think you got to go for it if you're Travis Brown. Like, this is what your hand is. It's just present lethal against a tapped out opponent, make them have the one card they could possibly have.
Now, the Teferi is in play, and Travis might get ahead of himself and say, go to attack with everybody, and try to flash in the hammer, be all sneaky with it. But Teferi does shut that down, so he will have to main phase it here if he'd like to attack with it.
Well, Fortune doesn't let you cast your.
It brings him back, and then I thought you could equip for 0 on the first equip.
Your first equip, and as long as it's your turn, you can equip as an instant. You don't get to cast your equipment as an instant.
I know. That's what I'm saying. He might mess up, and he kind of did. He didn't play the hammer. So we're going to go Force of Vigor. It's going to draw a card. Then we're going to blow up Forge Anew and the Sentinel. And the equip cost is still coming in.
Yeah, but we get to protect the Esper Sentinel with the Giver of Runes, and then instant speed equip the Calder complete.
Uh-oh. I guess
so we
Mangus
didn't even really need the hammer.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, Mangus packs it in. Game number 2 goes to Travis Brown. A nice win for Mono White Hammer. A flurry of instant speed things. Cheap cards being cast back and forth. And Hammer able to take down game number 2.
You know, we didn't see the Strict Proctor do a ton in that game because it immediately died. But if you really think about the way that game played out, there's a lot of ripple effects from that Proctor. Because I don't think the Fury would have been the turn to play if not for it. You would have played something else. You would have had more mana later in the game, and we saw Mangus get choked on mana as the game developed, missed his 5th land drop. He would have also had Fury at a better moment to maybe deal with some of those later creatures, that Giver of Runes, the Stoneforge Mystic, things like that, rather than have to deal with the high toughness Strict Proctor with it. And, you know, would have just been in much better shape over the course of that game. Maybe would have gotten a bean down, drawn an extra card as well when he eventually cast the Fury at a later point. So while Strict Proctor, you know, wasn't obviously a standout card there, I think, you know, a closer look at how that game played out reveals that it was really pivotal.
Yeah, bottlenecked his turn 2 play. Couldn't get down like a beanstalk or anything like that because it would have been bricked on the draw. Yeah, calling that.
There was just constant pressure. It was never an overextension from Travis Brown, just constant steady pressure on his opponent until he eventually collapses.
Right, and using that cool Forge Anew spell from the Orthering set to do some serious damage with the Cauldron free equip.
Yeah, Mangus never had a turn where he had a devastating play against Travis, nor did he ever have a turn where he could take a breath and take a turn off. That is really excellent sequencing, great aggressive gameplay, tight aggressive gameplay from Travis Brown.
All right, as these players are shuffling up here for game number 3, I'd like to remind you that we're in the quarterfinals of this $5,000 Modern Open here at the Apex Gaming home store in Caldwell, Ohio. This is our last invitational qualifier here at the home store until our invitational next month. I believe that's on the weekend of the 17th. Let me get a confirmation from my director. Okay. So November 17th weekend, Ross and I will be here doing commentary over that invitational. We're going to have a bunch of last chance qualifiers on Friday and Saturday, and our main event is going to be on Sunday. So it should be a really fun weekend for that. Let's take a peek at our opening hands, and we'll see if Mangus is able to defeat Travis Brown. This Bean deck popping up out of nowhere, but has a lot of tools that we've come to know and love in Modern, from Shardless Agent to Omnath Locus of Creation, Fire Ice. All these cool Leyline Bindings packages look pretty neat with the beans for sure.
I don't think I see a bean for turn 2 in Mangus's hand. And that is good news for Travis Brown.
Another Omnath drawn. I see Ice. I would have maybe liked to ice the land on that keep, huh?
Yeah.
Maybe just wants to kill Stoneforge. I feel like that's reasonable.
Stoneforge, and he doesn't have a ton of removal. Drew a second Omnath there. Kind of a weak draw for James Mangus.
Well, I maybe there's Fury a Fury hiding out.
Okay. Fury definitely definitely helps.
Change your
Okay.
tune a bit.
Yeah.
All right, deal 2. Bang. Land number 3. Do we have a shardless?
So
Oh,
magmatic sinkhole. The question for me here is, does Mangus cleanly get to a turn where he can go Omnath, fetch land, Fury? Or is he going to be forced to evoke that Fury earlier in this game?
it's a great question. Travis Brown here thinking about that exactly, I'm sure, but also how to sequence his turn. He has Strict Proctor in hand, which he can play. That might mess up some of James's plans over the next few turns. It also stops the Omnath draw and the landfall triggers as well.
Yeah, got to pay 2 for all those landfall triggers. That's a big deal. You basically don't net any additional mana at that
Right.
point.
Travis plays
Ooh,
Ganjo.
has to play the Aganjo. I was wondering if that might come to play against these Omnaths as well. Aganjo is a pretty nice way to kill one if you get it into combat.
Okay, we're gonna play Shadow Spear as our 1 mana thing. That's gonna trigger the Pure Steel Paladin and draw a card. We finish with Ornithopter. Don't quite have Metal Craft to equip the Shadow Spear for free, only 2, but
Yeah.
nice little board.
But on this turn, if you're Mangus, kind of feels like you need to evoke. Deal with the Ornithopter and the Pure Steel Paladin, and now you just don't have a ton left over. You've got a sinkhole to
You're
do.
gonna play. You're gonna play an Omnath this turn.
Yeah,
That's
you
that's
have
a lot
you
of
have an
leftovers.
Omnath. You have a 4/4 and a magmatic sinkhole. Against this hammer deck, I don't know. That's good.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's not amazing.
Could also just not play the Fury and just play Magmatic Sinkhole on the Pure Steel Paladin. I feel like that's a pretty
Yeah, maybe
weak
that's the
play
line.
overall, but I like your line. I like Omnath plus Fury Pitch.
Oh.
Forces to pick up. That might be a much better hit here. Maybe we just go full control mode. Fury both your things.
And hold up the force. I don't know how many force targets you're going to get here rather than trying to get the Omnath down.
Well, maybe doesn't want to leave the shields down for the Inkmoth Nexus. Says, I don't think I can lose if I get to untap with,
Yeah.
after playing this force.
Land aid hammer would be game if you tapped out for the Omnath and
Right.
didn't draw a green card.
Here comes the Proctor, looks like. And this is going to stifle a lot of James Mangus's effects over the rest of the game if he doesn't have the answer. And Travis pretty smartly doesn't play another target for Force of Vigor, and so Mangus is in a weird spot. But I think we're just going to go Sinkhole on the Proctor, EOT, untap, play Omnath. I think that's a reasonable sequence.
Yeah. The question is which one, you sinkhole. The Giver is pretty threatening here.
Proctor shuts you down too much, I think. The Giver is like, you have to kill this before anything else if it's at the ready.
I agree. I think you're forced to target the Proctor because
otherwise, you don't get the draw from
yeah,
the Omnath.
you need your Omnath triggers to maintain your position in this game. But this is, I'm going to be very impressed if Travis Brown wins this match, and scared for the rest of our top 8 competitors.
Yeah, I mean, Hammer is always tough to play against, but it's decks like these 4-color Beans decks playing Fury and a bunch of resource refreshers that are often quite difficult for them to punch through. I know that Travis is actually much happier with Beans being the default instead of the One Ring, because the fog effect of the One Ring is also just extremely difficult for him to deal with, and applies about as much card advantage as the Beans overall.
Yeah. Similar card advantage, better tempo because of that fog effect.
All right, here is Omnath, Locus of Creation. We're going to draw a card looking for some way to deal with Inkmoth Nexus. We do have Force of Vigor in hand, but Giver of Runes can protect. Does Travis have the kill?
That's a Leyline Binding, I think, is the other card. So the shields are down.
Okay.
Travis has it. I think there's another Proctor and another Nexus.
Dude. I think he has. I think he's got it rolled up. Oh, baby doll. Gonna start with Sigarda's Aid.
Oh my god.
Has Inkmoth to animate Inkmoth. Attack you. No blocks. Here comes Hammer. We have Force of Vigor. We're gonna target. Whoa, it's a white card, but he can't kill the Sigarda's Aid, and Travis Brown defeats James Mangus 2-1 with mono white hammer.
I think the white card was a Leyline Binding, but Mangus specifically drew Breeding Pool off of the Omnath. Actually, he drew Breeding Pool for turn into Binding.
Right, but he wanted to get 4 life
Yeah,
off of the
if he
Omnath.
knows the Binding is on top, he can shock in the Breeding Pool and
Right.
leave it up.
Unfortunate.
Maybe is 6 life worth playing to that out?
I don't know.
Hard to
I
say.
don't know.